Okay, great. I think we're now recording. Yes, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Good to see you for yet another session, continuing with our module one. I see not everybody's here, but nevertheless, we have to get started in the interest of time. At least for most of you, again, I'm happy that you're able to submit the assignment, so which is good. So we have a basis for the discussion today. For those of you who submitted the assignment, I hope you got a moment to check online because I looked at it last evening as well as this morning and provided some feedback. So 7 of you have submitted, which is good. For anyone who hasn't, please try to, so that obviously you don't miss any of the marks for that. As we Just as a reminder, we need 100% submission of the assignments before you can get the certificate. So if you've not done that, please try to do it even after this session. So, as we mentioned last time, we want to use this session to remind ourselves of what we covered on Monday. It's an opportunity for you to ask any questions related to whatever we discussed on Monday, where you need clarification, where you discovered something within the week that you think would help to discuss. Please, it's your opportunity to ask me, but also to ask other colleagues online so that we can learn together. So my plea to you is really to make this conversational. Really, I want to hear from you as much as you want to hear from me, because that's the only way we are going to make this course practical. What I've done, I had prepared some slides where I thought I would use would allow the idea according to the agenda was to get some of you to present once. So this is the agenda that I prepared, where some of you can present, your analysis of what you did, and then we can have a discussion around that. But looking at your assignments and what you submitted yesterday, I've somehow tweaked the agenda a little bit because for each one in submission, I've picked a few things which I want us to use for our discussion. So I'll be calling on each one of you, and then we discuss your case. I think I find that would be more interesting because then we are using real examples to understand what we are trying to, to teach you or to make you aware of. So instead of you presenting, I'm going to use it more of a question answer, and I expect that you can respond, help us understand your case study and how you approach the farm size or land holding analysis, as well as how you navigate the whole group of operators, split, registration, etc., etc. So I hope that works for you. Um, uh, but I thought that would be a better use of our time if I use live examples, because going through them, I could actually pick a number of outstanding areas which could definitely uh, form a good basis for our discussion. I hope that is fine. Please use the chat as we discuss. In case you have any question, any query, I'll be checking it. My colleague uh, Laomi may drop off because she's in transit, but I'll be checking as we discuss. I'll also be checking the chat so that we can move together. And of course, as always, raise your hand. I'm sharing my screen, but I can still see your hand so that we make this live. It's supposed to be a debrief. A debrief is not a training; it's sharing. It's hearing from both sides. So please make it so, and let's discuss. So so if we can get started, so I have, I wanted to start with Fred. I don't see Fred online, but I see many of you others. So I wanted to start with Margaret and your case study. And of course, when I ask the question, so I expect that you will get off mute and be able to share more details. So around the question of whether you have farms that are bigger than 5 hectares. You gave a response that you don't have, but rather your biggest farmer is 8 hectares. That wasn't really clear. So can you briefly really explain your structure, your farm size, and normally how you collect information about total farm holding? Margaret,
What
if you
what
can take
the
up that.
question again?
So I'm trying to look at your submission. So the first question around, so it was like, how do you capture land holding, total land holding? And then the second was around whether you have farmers that have land holding of more than 5 hectares. In your response,
Oh,
you said no, but then you mentioned that the biggest farmer is 8 hectares. So I just
I
wanted to,
think that was a
you got
mistake.
to really, oh, it was a mistake, because I wanted you to give us a little insight of your farmer holding, how you capture it, and yeah, who is the large, or how do you come to the conclusion of the total farm holding for your farmer?
Was a mistake. I think that was a mistake in my response.
Unfortunately, okay,
In,
please go.
yeah, that was
Connection is rather
a,
very, not very clear.
mistake in my response.
Margaret, we can't hear you. So if you can provide some clarity in the chat, that would be helpful. Because as you're
Yeah,
speaking, we can't hear you. Sorry, I'm going to mute you because we can't hear you at all. Hi, Margaret, can you hear me? Oh, I think she has actually dropped off. Her connection is rather poor. So again, I'll be asking this question, and for most of you, because I could see some bit of contradiction in your responses. On one hand, you're saying you don't collect all information on total holding for the farmers. You only collect for the fields where you have your crop of interest, and then you have the size of your crop of interest. Then you come and conclude that none of your farmers has more than 5 hectares. That is a contradiction, and it can be a compliance risk, because what the inspector will ask you first, exactly as assignment, how do you collect the total land holding for your farmers? So in your description, you need actually to collect all, as required by the standard. We discussed last time that we need to know all plots that the farmer owns, wherever he grows, organic crops, non-organic crops, crops for home consumption, everything. We need to know all the land the farmer is holding. That's number one. We need to know all the all the land that the farmer is renting or leasing. So all land that is operated by that farmer, you need all that information. That's number one. So get it all together, total it up, then that's when you can determine whether the farmer is below 5 hectares or above. And in the event that they are above, then you go to the second criteria. So if they are above 5 hectares, then you have to go to the second criteria of checking their sales. Because remember, what we discussed last time, that for a farmer to qualify to be a member of the group of operators, number one, they either have less than 5 hectares of land. If they have less than 5 hectares, they automatically qualify. But if they have more than 5 hectares, then we go to the second criteria of checking the total organic cells. If they are more than, they have to be less than 25,000 euros. If they are more than, if their land is bigger than 5 hectares and their total annual sales is also bigger than, 25,000 euros equivalent in local currency, then they can't be member of the group of operators. So you can't tell me that you don't have farmers that are more than 5 hectares when you don't collect all information of the total land holding. So that is the first thing. And I would see that I saw that in many submissions, but I just wanted to clarify that if Margaret is still online and hearing what you're discussing. I had another question regarding Margaret's case. Where you mentioned that you have a total of, is Margaret still on? Oh, sorry, Pepra, I see your hand, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
back to your explanation.
Yeah.
I can some of the majority of the farmers your explanation will have either less than or equal to 5 or more than or equal to 5, but they don't have all their farms in one particular area. For instance, somebody may have orange farm here, and that will be the only plot of land that the orange farm is on. But at a different location within the same community or geographical area, there will be another farm, say cassava or plantain or cocoa. So in that, how do you measure this?
Yeah, when we talk about total, thank you, Pepra, that's a good question. When we talk about total land holding, it means all parcels of land used for agricultural production, irrespective of the location.
No, okay.
They could even be in different districts.
Then the case would be that majority of the farmers will have to have their own certificate, because if you put everything that they have together, they will have more than 5 hectares. Probably their organic sales may not be equal to that 25,000 euros, but the land itself would give you that size of farm which qualifies them to own their own certificate. How do you explain
Exactly. Yeah. So if that's what I'm saying, that if you total up everything and they're more than 5 hectares, then we go to the second criteria, which is the sales. So if the sales is below 25,000, then they still qualify to be part of the group of operators. So that is still fine. So we use both criteria, and so some of them, if like I said, if the farmer is automatically less than 5 hectares, then they automatically qualify. But if they are more, which I think the second criteria is quite, I think it will catch most of the farmers, because most of the farmers make sales that are much lower than that threshold. So in that case, if it's lower than 25,000, then they are good to be a member of the group of operators. Fred,
Okay, well understood.
Oh, great. Thank you. Fred, I see your hand.
Yes, Lawin.
No, it's Brian speaking. Yes, please, go ahead. Fred, we're waiting for you. Are you speaking? Fred, I think you're not. Oh, now you're muted. Before you were not, but you're muted. If you can unmute and raise your question. Sorry, I think Fred is, for some reason, we can't hear you, but please either use the chat or when you can speak, let us know. I wanted to just follow on Margaret. I hope you can still hear me. For some reason, we couldn't hear you well. That's why I was saying that you could use the chat to give your answer. But the second issue or point that I had from your submission, you mentioned that you have 2,500 farmers in the central region and western. What was not clear is how, and I think at some point you mentioned that you're going to register the farmers in two groups. So what wasn't clear is how you're going to handle um, those two regions. Are you going to register all farmers in one union, meaning one union covering both central and western region, or you're going to have two separate groups of operators, one for central and one for western? That was not clear. And you can provide clarification in the chat because, like I said, your connection is not good. So my only query was, which I saw, I think in the submission, was if you are to, it won't be possible to register all the 2,500 within one union, because remember, one group of operators can't exceed 2,000 farmers. So if you have already 2,500, you're already above the threshold. So in that case, that's already a constraint you have. You can't register all the 2,500 in one union. So the best way forward would be to have two separate groups of operators, one for central and another one for western. But which I think also makes sense operationally, you know. Farmers within one region operating under one group of operators makes a lot of sense for management of their ICS. And I think, yeah, for your case, that would be the most ideal situation. Otherwise, putting them all together, you're already above the threshold, and that would be a compliance issue. I hope that is clear, Margaret. Those were the two issues I had with your submission. I don't know if you have any question or you want to make a contribution. We can try you unmuting again and see, or if you can't, you can use the chat to confirm whether that analysis, you agree with that analysis, or you want to add any other information. You may, again, I also want, yeah, please use the chat. I want to confirm that you are together with us. Meanwhile, I wanted to, or if anybody else has a question, Fred, I still see your hand raised, but you're on mute, so please either use the chat or try to let me know. I will actually stop sharing my slide because I'm not using the slide, so that we can see each other better. I hope we are good with that. I want to move to another case study from Fred. Can you now hear me? Because I wanted to ask about your submission. I think for Fred, you mentioned a situation where you have, you are trying to, you have a 40-hectare farm as part of your ICS, and you are trying to compute the annual turnover from that farm, which was a bit not clear because you said on that farm, it's a 40-hectare farm. You have 10 hectares of pineapple, where you expect the yield of 420,000 kilos or 420 tons of pineapple. And then on the sales, you said it is 5,000 euros. Just wanted you to give a little bit of clarity how you determined that the turnover from that acreage of pineapple would be 5,000. Fred, can you hear us? Can you try to speak? I see a hand from Chidove. Chidove, you may please come in.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I was unable to actually submit my assignment. But then I just wanted to bring some input into this. Like
Yeah.
for my company, yeah, I've been on
Mm.
field. That was my reason for not being able to complete my assignment. So for my company, we have 40 farmers, 40 organic farmers, and the total farm hectarage is 58, about 58 hectares for the 40 farms.
Okay.
So yes, I was looking at it that, and each farm is less than 5 hectares.
Mhm.
Each farm is less than 5 hectares.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it that for the total revenue that has been mentioned here, I was looking at it that how is it going to be, and are we actually on track? Because I heard that if it's over 5 hectares, that's for individual farms, then it means maybe you have to look at the new regulation. So I'm looking
Yeah.
at it that which of the regulation are we sticking to? Is it the old one or the new one? Thank you.
No, thank you. It's a good one. For your case, like you mentioned, that all your farmers, you don't have any farms that are more than 5 hectares. If that's the case, then you don't have to worry about the annual turnover analysis. We only, and I want to emphasize, we only go to the second analysis of annual turnover for the farms that are larger than 5 hectares.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So
Okay,
if your farm,
thank
if
you.
all your farmers each, they are less than 5 hectares, then you don't have to worry about the turnover. Great. So, no, thank you, Tenove. So please, you can still submit your assignment. Please make time, do it. The portal is open. Please to make sure that you are, you don't miss the grading for this. Fred, I see your hand. Can you now come in? For some reason, Fred, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Maybe I'll move to Pepra for now as we wait on your time. Pepra? Pepper, if you're speaking, you're also on mute.
Yes,
Can you unmute?
I have a list.
Okay.
I have a list
Okay.
of my
Mm-hmm.
growers with me, uh, showing their farm sizes. Can I share it? Can you direct you to share it so that it will serve as a guide to all of us as to how it's done?
Yeah, you want to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay, please, let's try. Let's try that. Yeah, I like live examples. Please try. Hope your connection can work. Okay. We can see your screen, but not we only see the name. Okay, great. Uh-huh. You can see the name and the farm sizes in hectares. Are you speaking, Pepra? Because we're not voicing over you what you're presenting. We would love to hear what you're showing us. Already quite interesting. I see farmer number 51, Araba Esibu, and there is 0 hectares, but they are part of the list. How come? Pepper, if you're speaking, you're muted. We can't hear.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear now.
Good. So as I indicated earlier, these farmers have less than 5 hectares. But again,
Yeah.
it is not their only plot. Yes. So do we have to measure the other plot of land where they have cocoa, palm oil, coconut, cassava, what have you? Or we can just maintain this list as we have. And since this list is not showing any plot that is 5 and over, we maintain it as such.
The simple answer is you need to go and measure or get all the land that they are operating. I think that's what your list is missing. So because
That is what we are.
yes. So what do you mean by, for example, if you say, let's talk about farmer number 1, John Kwame, and you show 1.8 hectares. What is that 1.8? Can you describe it a bit?
This 1.8 is only the citrus farm.
It's only the farm where you have the crop of interest.
Yes.
Okay. And so if on that, let's say on that parcel where you have the crop of interest is 1.8 hectares, how much is the crop of interest? Do you also have another column with that detail?
Yeah,
Like
the crop of interest citrus is 1.8 hectares for John Kwame Owusu. But
so
this
this
same
is
John
not
has
okay.
cocoa.
Okay.
He has cocoa, which is not near the crop of interest as measured. He has oil palm, which is not near different locations. So my question is clear that I might go back and measure those holdings as well.
Yes. The simple answer is yes. When we say total land holding for John, we want to know all the land where he's operating, where he has his cocoa, where he has his palm oil, where he has his food crop, everything summed together. That will be the first column, which shows total land holding for John Kwame. Then after that, then you will have another column where now you get the acreage for your crop of interest. In some cases, it's more than one, so you can have multiple columns. But yes, you need to go back and update this list because total land holding, as we described this on Monday, means all land that the farmer is operating, whether he owns it or he has rented it. So you need to get all those lands where he has, for example, if he has cocoa on 1 hectare and he has palm oil on half a hectare, and then he has other crops for home consumption on half a hectare.
Like cassava,
Exactly. So then the total will be like 3.8 or something. You know, it's much more than what you're showing here. So you're not capturing
definitely all the farmers have more than what I have shown here because this is only for their crops of interest.
Exactly. So then you need to update this. It's not right. Then I have a question for you. So when I see a farmer like farmer 29, Ruth J with a 0, what does that mean? That they don't have that
Yes,
crop of interest?
this one, the crop of interest cannot be measured because it was weeding when we got there. We couldn't go around it.
Oh.
So when the farm is weeded, we can have access to weed around, go around it and take the measurement. So now we only have the coordinates for the plot, but not the size.
Okay, then that's the data point as well. So you need to update that, you know, for, yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to understand that. So that means yes, they are growing the crop, but the information was not captured. So yeah, you definitely need to update this list. Get everything that the farmer has. This is a point of a compliance risk. If you don't capture all the land that the farmer is operating on, then of course, you know, that's already a risk, a non-compliance, and the inspector will definitely query you on this, because then they can't verify whether these farmers you've listed actually qualify to be members of the group of operators when you don't know their total land holding. I hope that is clear, Pepra.
Yes, it is clear.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So can you stop sharing? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that example. I think it brings the point home. And anybody, please feel free to ask any questions related to what Pepper has just shared. And yeah, so we can learn together. Pepper, you can stop sharing. And so, yeah, you see.
I'm trying to do
Yeah,
that, but I can't.
normally it's on top of your screen where you see something like stop sharing. It's already in red bar on top near the camera of your laptop, somewhere below there is where it is, but I don't know if that's how it
Stop share.
is
Okay,
done.
yeah.
Yeah, great. I saw some. I think I saw another hand. Okay, yeah, Fred. Fred, are you able to speak now, or I want to transition from you since your connection is not helping us much? Because I was looking at your case study. So you had actually, yeah, that one where how you're computing the annual turnover from this 40-hectare farm. I found it confusing and I thought I could use it as an example for this discussion, but I don't know how we do it when you can't hear me. But please use the chat. You said that you have a 40-hectare farm, which is part of your ICS. So obviously it's more than the 5-hectare threshold. You mentioned that you have 10 hectares of pineapple on that farm, and your yield expected is 420 tons. And then you estimated your turnover to be 5,000 euros. So my question is how you compute the 5,000 euros? Because that's gonna be now the compliance piece. And please, if you can clarify in the chat how you do that, then we can use it for our learning. Then the second point, you mentioned that you talked about two forms of ICS. Currently, all your farmers are registered in one ICS where you have the company, Biofresh, and then the farmers. But then you mentioned that you're going to split them, and then you have a Biofresh ICS and a group of operator ICS. That wasn't clear because, as I mentioned, if Biofresh is registered as an entity, which is just single entity, ideally it's not an ICS. ICS only applies for group of operators. So for Biofresh, which is the company that does trading, processing, they will just get a certificate for those activities. And they just have to have procedure. They're not an ICS person. They are like a large farm. So ICS, we only use that language for group of operators. I wanted to just clarify that and not confuse the language when we are communicating. I see in the chat you're saying there is a farmer with 40 hectares in total, 10 organic pineapple yield for, yes, the total organic sales is less than 5. Okay, that is, okay, makes sense. So meaning that the huge bulk of their harvest is sold on the local market. So if I assume you're using historical data to estimate this, that is fine. If that's the case, that they are making less than 5,000 euro sales in a year to Biofresh, then they can still be part of the group of operators. And then one other mention, Fred, you made is you talked about farmers being distributed in different locations. So you didn't explain the geographical distribution of your farms and how you're going to bring them together into one ICS or one group of operators, which is something I think we discussed at some point. You need to see how that would be the question that may be checked, how sparsely distributed they are and how do they functionally operate under one ICS. But then you also mentioned registration of the group of operators with the URBS, Uganda Registration Bureau Services. Depending on which identity, you want the group of operators to be, they may not need to register with URBS because that comes with additional, requirements in terms of, having some structures. They may just register as a CBO or something or a cooperative, which I think are simpler or easier than registering with URBS. But again, I leave it to you to determine what's appropriate. But I wouldn't want them to go to, because URBS they are registering like a company, and normally the compliance requirements are rather high, and I wouldn't imagine that your farmers need this. All they need is some form of identity as either farmers association, or if they want, they can also register as a cooperative, and then that's enough. They don't, and they can register in the Ugandan sense, I think they do that at a sub-county or something, or at a district. I don't know, because this is traversing. Or maybe the challenge you have is that they are traversing districts, so it's going to be at a national level. Maybe that's why you are going to URBS. But I would first check with the cooperative registration, because I think that could be easier than URBS in terms of compliance. But I leave to you to find the appropriate. Unfortunately, you're not online. You can't speak, so we could have had a discussion. Hi, Fred. Can you hear me now? Hello. Oh. I think it's Pepra speaking. Pepra, can you mute? It's not even Fred. Okay. Thanks, Fred, for that. Pepra, can you mute? Sorry. We hear a lot of, let me see if I can mute you. Okay. Fred, no, thanks for that clarification. There are 12 districts and we are bringing them under one ICS. Okay, makes sense. We are a BST registered CBOs in Uganda. Okay, fine. That's fine. Then I have a question in the chat from Vincent. Help me understand this better. For a farmer who grows some food crops on part of his land, must I as well include that in the total organic turnover? No. When we come to the level of computing turnover, number one, it's only done for farmers that have more than 5 hectares of total farm holding. So don't go and start, checking turnover for all farmers. It's a waste of time. Only for the large farms that are more than 5 hectares. Please note, that's number one. Number two, we are only focusing on organic turnover, organic sales. So what they've sold as organic. So if they have any food crop or any other commercial crop but are not sold as organic, we are not using them for the organic turnover computation. I hope that's clear. Then you're saying for organic product that wasn't sold to the ICS I think I've explained the second one. I just want to, I think, mute somebody else. Oh yeah, I think Vincent, I hope my explanation is clear. Only organic cells, meaning only products that were sold as organic. They may be organically grown, but if they are not sold as organic, we don't include them in the organic turnover calculation. Only what is sold as organic, meaning we can look at their organic buyers. I don't know which, so for your case, it's looking at records from the company side and then confirm if those sales were less than our threshold of 25,000. Great. Let's move on. To I think Marcy. I think I saw you online. You are with us. I hope you can unmute. So in your case, there was a question. In your response to the question whether you have farms that are more than 5 hectares, your response you just mentioned vanilla 4 acres, pineapple 1 acre. What wasn't clear to me is, do you mean that vanilla farmers on average have 4 acres and pineapple farmers on average have 1 acre? Or you mean total land holding? Can you clarify on that, Matthew, if you can unmute? Or use the chat to explain that. Again, I'm using this to confirm that when we ask here about, there are two different, when you ask about total land holding, we want to hear everything that the farmer owns. So you can't, if the question is, do you have farms that have more than 5 hectares? We are asking, do you have farmers that have more than 5 hectares of total land holding, including all plots where they have these crops of interest, the vanilla, the pineapple, and everything else that they are managing. Crops for food consumption. The only exclusion is forest land. Where they have forests, we don't include the forest land. But we also include fallow land. If they have plots that are under fallow, yes, they need to be included. Marcy, the question was that when you're responding to the question whether you have farms that are more than 5 hectares, you just put vanilla 4 acres and pineapple 1 acre. What wasn't clear to me is what you mean by that. Do you mean vanilla farmers on average have 4 acres of total land holding? All that is just for vanilla. That wasn't clear, and again, what I'm stressing is that for a question like that, which obviously inspectors or auditors will check, they are looking to see whether your farmers that are part of the group of operators meet that criteria, because that's a legal requirement, and auditors will check it. And when they check whether you have farms that are more than 5 hectares, they're talking about total land holding, not only the crop of interest. And in this case, I think you're only responding for the crop of interest. I'm stressing that, and I'm asking you to check total land holding. That's what that question is meant to ask. In case you have any follow up on that. Fred, I see your hand. Do you I don't know whether that's a legacy hand from last time or a new hand. Okay, potentially new. So please, yeah, you can. So please use the chat. I see many of you talking about network. Please use the chat if you want us to discuss and to understand what your issue is. Matthew, my sincere apology, I didn't understand the question. But those figures refer to only organic products. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That then you're not capturing everything. That question is about. That was the only question I had for you, Matthew. That is the piece that wasn't clear. The rest, I think, was clear. Kennedy, I wanted to move to you. I hope you're online. But I have to switch between screens to see who is online and who is not. I think Kennedy dropped off, so I'll also skip that. Pepra, hello?
Kennedy's on.
Who is speaking? Who is trying to come
Kennedy's
in?
on.
Oh, Kennedy, you're on. Great. Um, so Kennedy, I think your response was good. I had one question or where I needed a bit of clarification. So you mentioned that yes, you're going to organize your farmers under one ICS, which was very clear. But then you mentioned in terms of challenges, what you anticipate as challenges. You mentioned that the question was, have you started to think about suitable potential future forms of organization for the farmers that you buy from? Your response was future forms is through marketing, both local and exports. And then the key challenge was that the company is contracted to manage both the group ICS and its operation. That part of company contracted to manage both the group ICS and its operations wasn't clear to me. What do you mean by the company is contracted to manage the group ICS? Can you shed some more light on that?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Brian. What I was trying to mean to put your attention was that since our farmers, this is a new initiative, and adopting to it, it is really costly for the farmers, and farmers running the ICS, farmers training, farmers have their own agronomists. So the farmers, we talked to the representative of the various farmers, and we agreed together, both the company and both this entity, the company and the farmers. We agreed that the farmers, we are going to have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, such that the company, this entity which is responsible for processing, is the same entity that is going to help to run the ICS of the farmers, in a way that if we had an ICS manager and internal inspectors, this same team, this same organization structure is the same structure that is going to be handling the ICS, which is the farmers ICS. But because there was an MOU such that these operations are done until the farmers associations, this group of operators gets established to be able to run all its activities in the nearby future.
Okay, okay. No, thanks, John. That is helpful. Definitely, yeah, that is fine from the surface of it. It's really very important. As you build capacity of the farms and, you can support. So if it's supported by an MOU, that is important. But what would be clear, what would need to be is that you, the ICS manager who is appointed to support the group of operators, is appointed by the group of operators, not by the company. So the company may pay the salary, etc., but they have to be, because you are reporting or you are taking decisions on behalf of the group of operators, not on behalf of the company that is going to buy. So there is a bit of documentation, juggling between that, but I think that's fine. It's clear, which shouldn't be a challenge per se. So I don't know why you captured it as a challenge. I think you already have the solution right there, so it's no longer a challenge. Yeah. So if you've agreed between the company and the group of operators to manage things that way, I think for me it's already a solution. So it shouldn't be a challenge. We should be more optimistic to actually make it work. Thank you, Kenneth, for that. I think that is clear now. I wanted to move to the next paper. I think I want to go to your case study. You mentioned that Biotropic as a company has a farm for lemon, which is 9.1 hectares, and then another one for orange, which is 6.5 hectares. And you're listing the total farm size for Biotropic being 15.6 hectares as the total. So just by that definition, that means the Biotropic production of farm can't be part of the group of operators because, you know, it's already big. And what you didn't, maybe what would be the next level would be to assess the sales from that farm or whatever is sold as organic. So you didn't give a clear picture of that because that would be by size they don't comply, but hopefully by sales we could see whether they comply or not. I think I saw you are trying to do that. So you said 24 tons, 214 tons of fresh fruit, and then the total of 5,500 euros. Pepra, can you shed some more light of how that comes about in terms of annual
Yes,
turnover? Yeah, please.
yes, I did use the previous price per sack, which is the standard of measure for fruits, and then multiplied by the quantity we will have, or the selected that we will get from that fruit, and arrived at that figure.
So basically, you're following historical performance, right?
The expected yield, per the total farm size multiplied by the amount per bag. We are using a sizable standardized sack for measuring the fruit. Are you hearing me?
Let's see if I can share that so people can see where we're reading from. I'm trying to share it on my screen. How people can read. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this is what you included. So the farm is, you say the total is 15.6 hectares, and then you estimate 214 tons of fresh fruit coming from that farm in total.
Yes.
So that is a combination of fruit. It's not one type of fruit. It's obviously the 214 is lemon and orange.
It is a combination of two separate lemon farms and one orange farm.
So how much? Okay, please go ahead.
Yes. So I use the estimated yield multiplied by the unit of measure, which is a standardized sack, and then the price per sack.
Okay.
And then converted to euro. The amount we go to converted to euro. So it is an approximation of the expected yield and then the sale.
So the farm gate price for lemon and orange is the same?
Yeah, I did it the same.
Pardon
me? Usually the orange is a bit higher than maybe 5 weeks difference.
Okay, if it's not the same, then the ideal situation we should compute for orange separately and for lemon separately, then you total up. Because if yeah, you use the actual, so we shouldn't be averaging. No, we have to use the real price for lemon projected and orange projected, and then we, after computing, that price times the expected yield, then we add them together, then to get this total. Are we together on that? Okay.
Yes,
and okay, great. And then I wanted also to emphasize something here. There are two ways of computing this turnover, as I mentioned on Monday. You can use the estimated harvest, like you did in this case. That means you don't have historical data. Yeah. So if you're estimating, and then your estimated yield is 214, the assumption is that all the 214 is going to be sold as organic. If you expect to sell less than this, then you need to discount that. You need, for example, you can say of the total harvest, maybe 80% will be sold as organic. Maybe the 20 will not be, either for quality reasons, or you also have other markets. So sometimes you will not use 100% of the yield estimate that all that is going to be sold, because that's not practical in most cases. And you compute it separately for each crop, multiply by the farm gate price, then after total it up, like you try to do here, to get the GHC of 226,000. Then you convert into euros. And when you're doing the conversion, obviously you're using an estimate exchange rate as well. But in the case where you already have historical performance, meaning you've been buying from this farm, I think that was the case that we used for, I think was for Fred, when we were using at Fred's case. There you can also use historical records, because there you already have something. You can say, okay, last year we bought what, they made sales worth so much, but because this year maybe the yield estimate is higher, or the purchase is gonna be higher, then we estimate that it will be more than what was bought previously. So there's a lot of bit of some more assumptions here, because it's a projection. We are not yet there. We are assuming that the price will be consistent. So we are assuming the farm gate price is not going to change. We are assuming the exchange rate is not going to change, blah, blah, and then obviously the coming interest figure. So in your case, that will be the thing. So all these, the auditor takes you through just to confirm that you actually compliant based on that criterion. That is one. So thank you for that explanation. And I think it really helps to bring the point home. But that's how you compute it. Compute for each crop and estimate really sales based on the reality, how much. And again, sometimes you also have to think about the market. So you may harvest all the 214 tons, but if you can't sell all of it, then you can also discount it based on the projected sales and all that. The one other thing that I hope that is clear, the one other element I wanted to discuss about your response, Pepra, was around this issue here, where you're saying, in terms of the farmer organization, and you're saying all your farms, that the question is, are organic farmers organized in some form of legal registered ICS? Then you're saying no, they are under the company ICS, under the name Biotropic Organic Farmer Association. In this case, Biotropic, the question was, Biotropic Organic Farmer Association is the current registration for certification, right?
Yes, that is the current registration, because they are operating under our license.
Exactly. But so we need to split now. That's the current, but we need to split the group of operators from the rest of the company, right?
Yes, we're going to do that.
Okay. So the new name may not be Biotropic Organic Farmers Association for the group of operators. It's rather you're going to discuss with the farmers which identity they want to take on. Because remember now you're separating biotropical from the group of operators. There are two entities. So you need to discuss with the farmers under the group of operators whether they want to retain this identity or they want to have a new identity because now they are operating as a group of farmers, organic farmers, right?
Understood. Yes, understood.
Exactly. So that is, yeah, in other words.
So if you look at the current, the second box, now they're going to have their own officers, which will be director, assistant director, and then the secretary. So they're going to be registered with these officers.
Exactly. And why I'm saying about the naming, it's also an element of identity. So as you discuss with them, they may not just co-opt to be called biotropical because tomorrow they may be selling to somebody else. I'm not saying they are going to, but they may want to. So they don't want to be already labeled biotropical, yet biotropical is just one of the market outlets they'll be dealing with. So they need to have a more flexible identity that allows them to do or to deal with other markets. So that's the piece that you may need to agree with them. Any question from anyone related to that case study? Thanks, Pepra. It was good to use your case study for that discussion. I want to see, sometimes it's good when you see some thumbs up just to be sure that we are together. You put a thumbs up or you put a comment in the chat that yes, we understood, just want to be sure that we are actually moving together. And yeah, Tedove, I see you're saying it's fine. Okay, great. So I want to move to Emma. I think Emma is let me see, I think the idea of sharing screen is nice. So we can actually see what we're trying to discuss. This is Emma, and the idea is again not to show everybody. Yeah, and my question is around one of the challenges, Emma, you highlighted. Emma, are you on the call? Now I need to flip back and check on the participants. I didn't check before I shared my screen. So Emma, the question was, you mentioned the challenge of that farmers are highly dispersed in very small groups of under 150 farmers. And you're talking about helping them to form one large cooperative that will span such a large area under one ICS. And you, of course, you're highlighting it as a challenge. Emma, if you can hear me, do you mind giving us a little picture of your structure? How from your current structure, when you say they are dispersed, are those in several districts? When you say under 150, is that per district? And ultimately, what is the overall total you have currently? Do you mind sharing a bit of details on this? Let me stop sharing for a moment just to make sure that Emma is online. I think not. Maybe not. Sorry, I'm juggling. I think Emma is not with us today. But yeah, I think his challenge, the challenge he's highlighting is really being faced by so many, where you have farmers in so many different locations, and then now you challenge how you bring them into one functional large union. One of the limitations they have is Even as you try to put them under one, remember that they shouldn't be more than 2,000. That is one consideration. So if you think, if by bringing all of them together, they're already going beyond that 2,000 threshold, then you may need to think about, more than one group of operators. That's one consideration. And then the other is around for proper functionality. I understand why you're trying to aggregate them into one big entity is for elements of cost, as you hinted on. So in the event which makes sense, obviously, but let's also think about functionality, because that will be the next question, as we shall see in module 3. It's not just giving, we are not just, it's not about just bringing farmers together. We also need to think about functionality. How will the ICS operate in that instance? And one area is really thinking about a bit of smaller groups, or within different locations. Meaning you may think about per district. So if you have 150, so they form like a subgroup of the bigger entity. And so when you're thinking about management of this bigger entity, then you have representation from those different smaller groups. So meaning that the apex body, apex leadership committee, or whatever you're calling leadership group at the bigger one, has representation from these smaller units. So that ultimately decision making becomes easier, but also the representative from the smaller group can help you to be like your focal person, in terms of sharing information, in terms of when you're mobilizing for training, for sales, etc., etc. That dynamism needs to be factored in because normally the challenge is functionality. Yes, you may register them as one group, establish one ICS, but is it really functional? Is it really an entity that actually meets the requirements of a functional ICS, as we shall see in our ICS module? So that's just the kind of advice I can give at this point. And I've seen many cases of that in your responses, but yeah, it's something to think about. Let me know if there are any questions to that, any follow-on, any considerations you're making. I know many of you fall into that same category, so please let me know. Great. I think we will move on to Vicent. I think, Vicent, I want to just speak a little bit about your case study, where you're talking about, again, trying to describe how you register total farm holding, but I think you have the same challenge, where you say that you only capture land size within one district, and for farmers that have land that is spread across districts, that land is not captured. We need to do that. We need to change that as well. You need to capture everything, whether in one district or more than one district. We need to capture all that land. So if you're not capturing everything, then you don't know whether farmers are meeting that requirement of less than 5 hectares. I think this is just I'm basically drumming to make it. So you can't conclude. When you responded to this question, that when you asked that, do you have any farm with more than 5 hectares? You can't say none. When in the first instance you're saying you're not capturing all the land the farmer has. So this is not valid. You can't say with confidence that your farmers are less than 5 hectares. If you're sure, you're not capturing everything. Great. And you also, Vincent, exactly. Sorry, just trying to read the chat. So yeah, you can't say this. There will be queries around this that they have less than when you've just mentioned this, which is a total contradiction. And then, Vincent, you also, when we went to around the organization of your, you said you manage one region. I'm reading this statement here. With one cooperative that is made up of 2 districts, and that cooperative has conventional and organic farmers all combined in one cooperative, where the organic farmers are 121. And then you're talking about having 2 cooperatives. I think I read it somewhere in the next section. Just before, and again, if you want to get off mute and give us a bit more explanation, Vincent. Yeah, I see. Okay, with your clarification, then some of the farmers may have exactly spread across exactly. You need to confirm that. You need to register all the land they have, or the land they are holding, and do. So, do you want to, Vincent? Do you want to say anything about your farmers across regions? How many cooperatives you have? Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So with our mode of operation, we initially were in a few districts, and over time, we've started expanding to newer districts. So the thing is, when you go to a newer district, you look for a cooperative there that is already established, and just to make work easier for us, we get into an MOU with these farmers under their cooperative, and then all farmers that are registered within that place are requested to subscribe under that cooperative. That is how we are having different cooperatives all over. So now all districts that are in central Uganda and eastern Uganda are merged to work under one ICS. So I'm in charge of the eastern side, eastern region, and then another colleague of mine who is on the platform now is in charge of the central region. So the what we had in one discussion, of course, we've not yet disclosed this with the management and the consultant we have, but what we had in thought at the start before this training was to form one ICS, but now this time around having only organic farmers. So we would have to ask all farmers who are in these different cooperatives to come together and form their own cooperative, but for organic farmers alone, and then have their own ICS. One thing that we think is going to give us a hard time in the long run is that some of the farmers might at some point become parallel producers on uncompliant with the ICS, and then we'll have to drop them, which might as well interfere with their own internal regulations of how the cooperatives are run according to the Ugandan law. And then the other thing is, for a farmer, since these farmers are spread across these different other districts, it's us giving them the idea to form a new cooperative. It's not theirs. They've not owned the ideas, the idea of forming a cooperative from within themselves. So it might be a bit hard to, it might look like we are forcing people to subscribe to a certain political party, and them taking ownership and doing things with their own internal drive might give us a bit of hard time. But that's what we have at the moment as our idea. Thank you.
No, thanks. That's an interesting case study, Vincent. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I mean, these are all challenges you need to navigate. And of course, as you're explaining, definitely my concern would be as because all these farmers you're working with already belong to some cooperatives. What I'm not sure is what kind of legal identity those cooperatives are. Are they just self organized groups or they are officially registered. So that's one issue. If they are already, I mean, if they are loose establishments, then probably no big issue, because then bringing them under one will be like, now you are really, I mean, it's not that they are detaching legally from where they are belonging, but it's rather easier. But if they already registered in those cooperatives that you're working with, yes, they may join the one that you are creating, but it doesn't mean that they exit from their mother cooperative. They can still be members of the cooperatives where, you know, their mother cooperatives, if I might call them. And the law, that is, I have a caveat there, you need to confirm, about membership in multiple cooperatives, which I think is not a problem, but confirm, because then that means they can continue their membership in their mother cooperative, and at the same time become, for those that are organic, continue to be members of this one cooperative you are creating. That, if you do that, if you manage to achieve that, then you don't have a problem where a farmer drops out of the organic cooperative or group of operators at will, or when they don't meet the requirements anymore, meaning they've, you know, violated a number of times and you need to exclude them, then they are still members of the mother cooperative. Then you don't have to worry that you leave them hanging in that sense. Then it's rather, yes, they just lose the organic connection, but they continue being part of their mother cooperative. The other challenge that I'm seeing, because the mother cooperative still has some conventional farmers, you will need to think about how does this new structure you've created of the organic operate when those farmers are still in a cooperative with non-conventional farmers. So meaning, yes, they may still be part of that, but within that cooperative, they may have to form a sub-unit, something that I was explaining before this, where they have a representative that is helping you to mobilize those farmers within that existing cooperative that are only organic and they are members of this one that you've created. Again, for purposes of functionality, for, when you have trainings, when you have purchasing, to be done, when you have, even inspection and all those things. So it's like they have a little sub grouping within that cooperative that for only the organic farmers within that cooperative that are subscribing to this group of operators that you've set up. So it's gonna be a little bit, I can see it can work, but you need to think about those nitty-gritty of how does it run on a day-to-day basis. Knowing that you don't want to disrupt the existing cooperative, you want them to continue because that's the fallback position for these farmers in the event that they no longer want to be organic. But also you need to think about, how do we, yes, they can continue in that, but also we keep this one we are creating functional and operating. And I hope that when you create this one, it's still within the 2,000 threshold, because if you bring all your organic farmers from the different cooperatives you work with and it's more than 2,000, then you're going into another complication of having to think of splitting. Vincent, does that make sense? I saw you raising your hand.
Yes, it does. Thank you for the clarity.
Great. Thank you for that. Yes, I mean, it's a discussion, like you said. It's also, I think, one other comment you made around, farmers will definitely not see this in the short term. It's you are the vision bearer, and you definitely need to share that vision with them. It's going to be a discussion. The way you should approach this is to go to each of these cooperatives you're working with, Bring the farmers together and explain what you're trying to drive towards. I think if they understand it from the start, they know that you're not really trying to integrate, the cooperative they have and how they are working, but you're rather creating an avenue for the organic farmers to continue marketing the organic product. Then they can support you and they will help you to establish that. But if you, again, that's what we always say, building from the bottom up. But if you build from top down, make all the decisions at your company level, and then you imagine that the farmers will just buy into the idea, it's bound to fail. And it will be seen as your thing, not their thing. So you really need to engage them, have meetings, discuss. When you're creating this structure of managing this new team, let the organic farmers within a particular cooperative also have a representative, have somebody who's going to mobilize them, and that representative should be part of this, central structure you're creating. So that's really, it is their thing. It's them bought into it. Then that's when it will work. Otherwise, all of these contracted production, the risk is farmers will see it as an extension of the current structure, which legally, from the EU point of view, they don't want that to continue. They really want farmers to own the new structure, the group of operators. But if we don't set ourselves for success from the beginning, then it's bound to fail, because farmers will always fall back to the old, thinking that you guys are going to do everything, the company is going to do everything, and then non-compliances will come in. You may get certification for 1 year, but it may not be renewed because the foundations have not been created to keep it going. Right. I hope that's clear. No quick answers, but I hope it helps as you navigate these challenges. I think the last case study that I saw is from Theodore. Tidove. I think, Tidove, actually, I think I saw your, oh, no, did you put? No, yes, I think you, yeah, we discussed your case. Did we, Theodore? Because you mentioned that you have, Tidove, you mentioned you have 40 organic farmers, a total of 5 hectares. But I think what I wasn't clear is average land holding per farmer, and if you're capturing all the total land holding. I think it's the same question we've been discussing across the board for all of you. So that is, I think, from all your submission is something that you need to go back and confirm, because if you're not capturing all the land holding, then you can't say for sure that your farmers that you don't have farmers that have more than 5 hectares of land holding. Please verify that because auditors will look out for that. And when you have a farmer that is more than 5 hectares, then they will have more interest to see whether you checked on their annual organic sales to see that they don't exceed the threshold of annual turn of 25,000 euros equivalent before you included them in the group of operators. Great. So that's it. I think I tried for all of you to look at your submissions, to discuss them. Please let me know if you have any more questions related to that. And those who didn't submit, please do. I think one person I saw online, I didn't see your submit. Leslie Prema Adi, I don't remember seeing your submission. Please find time to do, because it contributes to your final score and whether you can get a certificate or not. And I'll have time to assess it and give you feedback. So, any questions? Any points regarding that assignment or regarding the training on Monday that you need me to speak to? Please let me know. Use the chat. We still have a few minutes of our session today before we go into the quiz. I'll pause for 2 minutes or so for anyone who wants to raise anything. Basically, we're talking about module 1, and the recording was there with you You can access it. You have the access to the slide deck. Anything that came out that wasn't clear, please use this time to discuss it. Great. In my world, silence means no problem, no issue, everything is clear. That's what silence means. So the next part of our debrief is really now we are the assumption again we are having. So having gone through the session on Monday, introducing this, everything related to a group of operator model and with a new structure, who is eligible to be a member, what all the limitations around that. Having done the assignments, which most of you did, having done this review that we've been doing since we started this session, the assumption is that now you're ready to do you have enough information. And the only way we can prove is by you filling in the quiz. How do you access the quiz? You log into the platform. As you scroll down, you'll see the link to the quiz. It's going to remain open between now, I think, until Sunday. They're just 10 questions. Multiple, yes or no, or some of them are multiple options. And yeah, you will already see your mark after attempting that quiz. So knowing that you're busy people and probably you will not have time to do that, if I wanted to give you this time, you can go in. But of course, I don't expect that you're going to ask me questions as you're attempting the quiz. So I want to end our session here for today, giving you the last 25 or so minutes to go into the platform and try to attempt that quiz. I will not, and then of course, happy during the next session. If you have any question or anything that is peculiar that you saw in the quiz, we can use 5 or so minutes on Monday to if of course you're challenging the response or the why you failed it or why you thought it wasn't clear, we can use that time to respond to it. But otherwise, this is it for today. Go into the platform, attempt the quiz, and let's meet on Monday for our next module 2. That is if you don't have any other questions. Thank you so much, and yeah, have a good rest of your day and a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.